Alchemy is the ancient art of turning base materials into noble ones, both in the physical sense of turning metals like lead into gold, and in the spiritual sense of personal and philosophical enlightenment. Now, in real life, there's no actual way to turn lead into gold. And quick fact here, this is actually what Isaac Newton spent a huge amount of time, money, and effort doing in his life. So it wasn't just making your life miserable with calculus, it was also figuring out how to turn lead into gold, which isn't possible. But in your writing, if you understand the alchemical process, it can help you tell a story that takes the reader and the protagonist through this transformation process where they can grow and become something better than themselves, and it helps you tell a really engaging story. And in this video, I'm going to walk you through the 4 steps of alchemy and how understanding these steps can help you write a great story. My name is Tim Grahl. I'm the CEO of StoryGrid, where we help you build the skills, write a book, and leave a legacy. My partner, Sean Coyne, is the creator and founder of StoryGrid, and everything we teach here at StoryGrid is based on his 30 years of writing and editing experience. So the first thing we're going to do is break your story down into 4 distinct parts. Now you can think of these as acts. We call them quadrants here at StoryGrid, mainly to separate it from the 3-act structure or the 7-act structure. We look at a story and we break it down into 4 quadrants. Now each of those quadrants is roughly 25%. But don't get too caught up on this math idea. You're never going to find a story that perfectly fits where each quadrant is 25% of the book. But for now, it's just helpful to kind of think of 4 distinct parts that are roughly the same length. And once you break it down into those 4 parts, we can look at what happens in each individual quadrant. And understanding the alchemy process is how we're going to look at that. Quadrant 1 is the beginning hook. In terms of alchemy, this is the base matter. This refers to the raw and unrefined material or substance that is the starting point of the alchemical process. Symbolically, this can represent the primal or unevolved state of being or consciousness. This is the prima materia that is our protagonist at the beginning of the journey. So at the beginning of our story, our protagonist is living in an ordered state. What this means is that they have their life ordered in a way where they know that cause and effect is working. They know if they throw boomerang A, they're going to get boomerang A back. If they throw boomerang B, they're going to get boomerang B back. So at the beginning, your protagonist is set. They've got their world working. It's going as expected. Even if they're not happy or things around them are broken down, they at least know what's going to happen next, and they're living in an ordered world that they understand. What your protagonist does not realize in quadrant 1 is they need to be broken down and put back together in a new way. So they are going to be your base material that you're going to break down and put back together through the rest of your story. Quadrant 2 is the middle build up. In terms of alchemy, this is the solve or dissolution, which refers to the process of dissolving a solid substance into a liquid. This is often an early step in the alchemical transformation, where the base matter is broken down to facilitate further work. Solve represents the breaking down of old structures, beliefs, or aspects of self. It's about letting go of rigid forms and allowing for a flow state where transformation can occur. This is associated with the period of introspection, self-examination, and the dissolution of the ego. This is where we start introducing chaos into our protagonist's life. So in the first quadrant, cause and effect were working really well, and now those are starting to unravel a little bit. So for our protagonist, when they throw boomerang A, they get boomerang A back. But when they throw boomerang B, they get like an angry cat back. They get something unexpected. And so what used to work for our protagonist isn't working anymore. And yet they keep clinging to the old way of thinking because that's what they've always done. And they think if they just keep trying harder at this, it'll eventually work. So this leads to a bottoming out, a fragmentation of our protagonist's worldview that then kicks us into quadrant 3, which is the middle breakdown. In terms of alchemy, this is the heat or calcination stage. In practical alchemy, calcination involves the application of heat to a substance. So at this point, we've broken the substance down, and now we add heat, and this starts separating all the different substances inside of that base matter. The primary goal is to purify the substance by burning away impurities or unwanted material components. Symbolically in our story, this is the burning away of the ego, and personal attachments. It's about the destruction of false beliefs, pride, materialistic desires, to uncover a purer, more essential state of being. This is when your protagonist becomes disillusioned and they enter chaos. It's where no matter what they try, it's just not going to work. Every time they throw a boomerang, they get something random back that they do not expect. Cause and effect has completely broken down. What was left of their worldview is completely burned away. They're forced to break frame, break their worldview, and rebuild a new one. And now, armed with this new way of seeing the world, we can kick into Quadrant 4, which is the ending payoff. In terms of alchemy, this is coagula, or coagulation, into higher matter. This is where we take that dissolved and separated substance and we reform it again into a solid shape. This new shape is more refined, it's more beautiful, it's more noble. In terms of personal growth, this stage symbolizes the integration of learned lessons and insights leading to a more evolved, enlightened state of consciousness. For our protagonist, we start adding order back into the system, and the combination of chaos and order creates complexity, which is what we're all trying to strive for. And because of this, your protagonist is now able to make better decisions, even in this world of chaos that was breaking them down previously. And so what this allows them to do is not just pick up boomerang A and throw it and get boomerang A back. Now they are able to better pick which boomerang to throw so that they understand what's going to happen next. They integrate their new way of thinking, their new worldview into their life and into how they're moving in the world. And this is how they're able to level up and solve the problem that is facing them in the story. So let's look at a couple examples, and we're going to start with The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. So in Quadrant 1, the beginning hook, we're looking at the base matter of Katniss Everdeen. She's living in this oppressive society of Panem in the impoverished District 12. She's surviving here, and she's doing it in this combination of a little bit of rebellion and a lot of submission. So when we look at Katniss, her world works. Cause and effect are coming together. There's order. She understands how the world works, and she's able to move through it with this combination of rebellion and submission to what's happening around her. But then after she is entered into the Hunger Games and she ends up in the Capitol, everything starts kind of breaking down. So there's all these things that worked in Quadrant 1 back in District 12. They sometimes work and they sometimes don't. They sometimes gets her where she wants to be, and in other time it gets her further from where she wants to be, and she's starting to have this disillusion. She's breaking down what she thought she believed about the world. Now in Quadrant 3, she actually enters the Hunger Games, and this is the heat that tests and purges Katniss. She faces life-threatening challenges, moral dilemmas, which act as a way to burn away her initial perceptions and limitations. And we see this where she struggles with killing the other children in the Hunger Games, when Rue dies, and when she's also forced to rely on Peeta. So this burns off those old ways that she saw and understood the world around her, which leads us to Quadrant 4, and this is Coagula. This is where she gets reformed into higher matter. And so she takes her old way of rebelling and she reconforms it, and that gives her the idea of surviving by poisoning both her and Peeta at the same time, which allows them both to get out of the Hunger Games alive. So the conclusion of the games in Katniss's evolving role becomes a symbol of rebellion that allows her to move and kick into the other books to keep the rebellion going. Okay, let's look at Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. So in the first quadrant, in the beginning hook, we're looking at the base matter, and living with the Dursleys is this base matter. He's living this mundane, unremarkable life, unaware of his true heritage and potential. This stage symbolizes his unrefined, unenlightened state. We see him using a little bit of magic constantly, but accidentally, and not understanding who he truly is and the power he truly has. So then we enter into the wizarding world in Quadrant 2, and this is the Solve. So this is where we start seeing everything break down about the way he thinks the world works. His old worldview isn't working anymore. How he interacts with people and how he interacts with his friends, his parents, his past, and the wider magical community constantly keeps him off balance, where sometimes, again, What he thinks will work works, and other things just don't work out for him. And then we move into quadrant 3, the middle breakdown. And this is where heat is applied to Harry. And we start seeing that he is under extreme danger. There are things that are after him. There are things that he can't trust. He tries to tell the teachers, and that doesn't work. He tries to monitor Snape, and that doesn't work. He tries to get help from Hagrid, and that doesn't work. But in the end, he realizes he's the only one that can actually go through with it and confront Quirrell. So this kicks us into the ending payoff of Coagulate. And this is where you see everything that Harry has learned through the story all come together and give him exactly what he needs to overcome both Professor Quirrell and Voldemort at the end of this first book. I have come to love this way of looking at stories. It helps me understand my own stories that I'm trying to write, and it gives me a new lens to study masterworks. We see our protagonists starting out in this world where it's ordered, cause and effect are working, they know what's going to happen next, and then because of the inciting incident, and I talk about that in the 5 Commandments of Storytelling, all those videos, which are down in the description, but because of the inciting incident, it rips our protagonists out of their world and it puts them in this world where they don't know what's going to happen next. And it's because their worldview is not up to snuff. It's not going to work in this new world. And so they have to keep getting it wrong until their worldview breaks. They get a new understanding of the world and they're able to use that to overcome what's happening to them and in the world around them. And this works on every story, from action stories to crime stories to love stories to war stories. This happens to the protagonist. They have to break the way that they're currently seeing the world and then see the world in this new way. And understanding this alchemy process is going to help you do that in your own stories. Now, I love talking about story structure, and I'm going to keep talking about it here on this channel. So make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that bell so you get notified of all future videos we put out at StoryGrid. Now, there's 2 main ways you can get the most out of StoryGrid. The first is click the link down in the description to get a free 30-minute consultation with the StoryGrid expert. If you're stuck in your writing and you don't know what to do next, we can help you walk you through that decision and figure out what's next to keep leveling up your skills as a writer. Also, you can go to storygrid.com, sign up for the newsletter, because that's where we send out all the new stuff that we're working on at StoryGrid. But either way, thanks so much for being a writer. Thanks for being a part of our community here at StoryGrid, and I'll see you next time.